Hello my friends, welcome to what I'm going to call lazy ups and downs today, which isn't technically true. I just don't have a lot of room in here, but basically, last minute, somebody, that may have been me, had to go and do something throughout the night. Quite literally, I've had zero sleep. It sounds way more kinky than I mean it to. It was not like that. So anyway, we are dealing with life on life's terms. As we talked about before, we always give the good bits up, and we always give the bad bits down. And given that halfway through this we did get AEW Dynamite, let's get into it. MJF and Hangman Adam Page came to the ring though to have their much touted face-off, although they were told you're not allowed to touch each other because you will be fined, when Maxwell Jacob Friedman decided to employ the Hulk technique. He was like, listen Hangman Adam Page, you're not a good man, your weakness is anger, and I'm about to make you really angry. Page then said that MJF was an edgelord and a dumbass, and so many people are saying dumbass, I may start a counter, but I won't do that because we have too many. When he said, listen dude, you've still got that magical contract, if you want a title shot you are going to have to cash it in or sign it in, whatever we say, because I saw how you beat Mark Briscoe last week. Well, you cheated because you're a cheater and I don't like you. Maxwell returned fire by saying that Adam Page is nothing but a little boy and nobody is pure good and nobody is pure evil. And I think he said he wanted to crucify him. I sat down and I stared off into the distance and I was like, I would like to tell you I don't want to see that on wrestling TV, but if you are a long-term watcher, you know some very big companies have at least done it twice. Adam then continued saying, yeah, sure, he makes mistakes, but he always owes them, whereas MJF is a coward and he's a piece of trash and nobody likes him. And essentially his strategy did work, even though Friedman said he wouldn't be goaded into using his magical contract. By the end of this he was. Well, there was some weird production issues. I'm not sure if that was on my end or everybody's end, but now it's making me go, is that part of the story? And he didn't really cash his contract in, but that can't happen because it would make Hangman Adam Page look like the stupidest person ever. Like, surely this is the physical contract they both have to sign. The thing is, though, these two together are just absolutely wonderful, and now we are getting this match at Forbidden Door, and even though Hangman only just won that title, it still has mecha jeopardy. I cannot believe this is going to end clean unless Tony Khan comes up with a very interesting idea, but it just feels like AEW, which is the stupidest thing I'm ever going to say. But of course, Hangman Adam Page is an OG character, MJF is an OG character, they both should be the world champion. I'm giving it an up. Sometimes wrestling doesn't need to be complicated, man. Someone should just say bad things, and somebody just say good things, and then you pick what direction you want to go in. I'm very excited about this. I think they're great. When we did get a recap of Wheeler Yuta being kidnapped last week and nobody really seemed to care, when it was time for Kevin Knight versus Jon Moxley, because of course, Speedboard Mike, fuck you Speedball Bailey, that's how we say it now, got basically murked by the Death Riders last week, so now Kevin Knight was going to try and get revenge. Now listen, I love Kevin Knight, he is a star in the making, you can argue he's a star right now, and he did get some offense in here. By the end of it, he got totally wrecked. So we are going to have to throw one on the dick board, and we are going to talk a lot about distractions, interference, and confusion today, because not only was Speedball on the outside, but so were the rest of the Death Riders, or at least Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta. I kind of understood Wheeler being there, he probably wanted to be around friends, otherwise he'd be put in another body bag. At 1.2, Jon Moxley bit Kevin Knight's head because he wanted to stop his offense, although Kev then came back with an awesome superplex, but ultimately, after some shenanigan distraction on the outside, he did go into the sleeper, he hadn't got his 8 hours, I know everything about that, and he tapped out. I would have tapped out too. The heels then jumped the faces when Darby Allin made the save. This guy is totally crazy, because yep, he had his body bag again, and he had his skateboard, which I think you could actually do in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Poor Yuta then got put in another body bag. And I was like, I think we need a law to stop this. When Claudio Castagnoli appeared, he freed Willie Yuta, because he's the only person that cares, when he put Darby in that thing instead, and he basically killed him. I forgot that Darby Allin wasn't sane. This was a very welcome reminder. They were then absolutely going to murder him with a chair when Will Ospreay returned to AEW to make the save. And this made me laugh out loud in a good way, because the last time we saw him was like, man, I'm so injured. I don't know if I'm going to make the pay-per-view. And here he said, ha ha, Death Riders, Jon Moxley, I don't like you very much. So at Forbidden Door, why don't we do a lights out steel cage match? That is like asking your mum for some cheese on toast and you come home and she's become Pizza Hut. Actually, this one did work because we did get a proper winner. It's not like the DIC got in the way of anything else, although once again, I am going to return to it, but I'm going to give it an up. I just thought it was well worked. And listen, I'm going to be at that Forbidden Door show. Sometimes I think you need to look at it that way. Do I want to see a lights out cage match where I may pass out through the violence? I do, because I have a problem, and sometimes I can be a sicko. Giving it up. Well, I'm sure Julia Hart was annoyed because she was on the outside because our own teammates, Thekla and Skye Blue, were teaming up with Mercedes and they were going to be taking on Queen Aminata, Alex Windsor and Willow Nightingale. I'll tell you this before we get into it, it was also super duper fun, Essentially, every single match on this Dynamite was super duper fun. There was some outside nonsense straight away because Toni Storm appeared on one balcony and Athena appeared on another balcony, but everybody loved that, so it is fine. But as I've already mentioned, because Julia Hart was on the outside, every now and then she would run around and cast distraction, and there was sort of run-ins after every single match. And this is probably just a Simon Miller problem as opposed to a wrestling problem. But because WWE is doing it a lot and AEW does feel to be doing it a little bit more and more, I just get a little bee in my bonnet, obviously not really because I'm totally bald, where I'm like, man, I would just like a little bit more creative finishes here and there. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I feel it, so I may as well tell you. Willow also got this awesome massive cannonball at one point when Alex Windsor were like, I'm going to do a sharpshooter, I'm going to do a scorpion deathlock. I mean, you have to choose the name. Nobody knows anymore because both those guys has retired. When before long, saw Skye Blue, who got absolutely murked at some points during this, she applied it. She tapped out too. There's a lot of tap outs. Of course, Toni Storm and Athena started to fight up top, meaning Mercedes Moné and Alex Windsor started to fight at the bottom, and they had a big old brawl, and at the end of it, Toni did announce that next week they're going to go bare back in Scotland, which means a tag team match, but it also means other things. If you're a kid, don't Google it. But once again, look, so good, had so much fun. Everybody was just on fire tonight, so I am going to give it an up. But given how some of the other matches also go later, and the match that we did have next, I am just going to give it a little bit of a down for the DIC-ing, if that's a correct term. I just think sometimes you need to save it for the gimmick match, which again was going to follow up, but it's such a minor criticism. It's basically, like I said, more about how I'm feeling overall about wrestling right now. Let's do some other things. I'm not saying it's easy. In fact, it's probably super duper hard, but sometimes that has to be the job of a creative team. I'm making mountains out of molehills here, but I've told you I can't even say molehill, and I'm tired. It's probably the real reason. It just felt a little bit worse. Will Ospreay then revealed that Tanahashi is going to be on his team, which is both good because we can protect him, but also worrying because he could die. When we got to the best match of the evening, Stokely Hathaway versus Adam Copeland, people get mad at me, but I don't care. I would take a match like this every single week. Hell, you can put it in the main event of WrestleMania, and it started with people literally dragging Stokely to the ring because he decided, you know what, I don't want to do this, I've changed my mind. He's genuinely brilliant. He then tried to spear, but he bounced off Adam Copeland like he was a piece of paper when he actually tried to reason with Adam Copeland and said, why don't we be friends? So he must have been playing Mortal Kombat. He tried the fatality, and when that didn't work, he quite literally went for a friend alley. Adam then cut a promo saying that Stokely was essentially a piece of trash when FDR finally appeared at the rampway, because they were like, listen, we understand we have a restraining order. We are legally the correct amount of feet away from you, but you need to stop this. Leave our friend alone. Adam Copeland was like, nope, and he continued to beat him up. Of course, eventually, Cash and Dax decided, oh, screw this, we do have to help our friend, which is actually quite a babyface thing to do. And not only did it mean they got involved in the match, it also means the legality is now free, so they can have a big fight when Stokely Hathaway got some powder and he just threw it in Adam Copeland's face. I would have assumed this was a DQ, but I think the referee ruled it a no contest, which is very strange. And after the fact, all these three were going to beat up Adam Copeland when who made the save? It was Christian Cage, and that kind of rhymes, so it must be true. He had spikes, so he's trying to kill people. Nick Wayne then teleported out of nowhere, but he got totally murked. When Christian looked at Adam, and Adam looked at Christian, the fans were chanting, why don't you give each other a hug? And damn it, they did. Now listen, if you're an old school fan, this would have got you right in the tum-tum. But at the same time, if you did think this all happened a little bit in fast forward, well, I understand. Especially because later we got told, oh, by the way, they are having a match against Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian. Now listen, I am a right piece of trash for doing this. You should get mad at me. You should yell at me in the comments, call me a bald idiot. I am going to give it an up because the match was absolutely awesome. And that was a great, great moment too. But I do kind of feel like all of this is just moving so fast, especially because here they fought with FTR, but now they're fighting the patriarchy. Now I understand that because it's Christian's final group, but to me, I just kind of feel like we should have done some big schmoz between Christian and Nick Wayne first. It kind of feels like it's going in reverse because you may get that match afterwards too. I know what I'm doing with my hands here. So it is just going to get a teeny tiny down. I'm being unfair here. Even I think that, because when you get a moment, you should just not worry about the nonsense. But I've done it now, there's no going back. But in terms of a segment and a reunion afterwards, one of the best things of the week. We then got Ishii, Hologram, Brody King and Takahashi, who was a surprise, taking on Kyle Fletcher, Josh Alexander and the Young Bucks. And all I'm going to do is sit back in this chair, which probably ruins the framing. I'm going to tell you to go and watch this today. Some people don't like party matches because they get mad that a wrestling match would be called a party because wrestling must be serious as we talk about death and suffering and sad things in your life. But It's just a style of wrestling that has been born over the last few years, I guess since PWG. I totally love it. It's a wonderful palate cleanser. And right now, because the Young Bucks are just being mugged off by everybody, they came out to like backyard wrestler, entrance music, whatever they were doing when they first got into wrestling. They super kicked Justin Roberts in the face because they were so mad about his introduction. When we learned a few minutes later that Tony Khan had already fined them $10,000, if this isn't for you, I totally get it and I respect it. But when it pops up, 3/4 into a Dynamite, it just elates you. And it came off that Stokely thing. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to creativity. It didn't feel like anything else on the show. Also, in terms of moves and timing and pacing and ring awareness, every single one of them is flabbing brilliant. I also haven't mentioned the dive counter, and in this match alone, I think we've got about 5. So I'm just going to whack up 5 on the dive counter, and Hologram was doing a lot of these because that man loves to dive. And the pile driver that we got on poor Brody King. Everybody picked him up and spiked him on the ring apron. Did some checking. It's the hardest part of the ring. He did return later, which was awesome, because it was like a beast coming out of the floor wanting revenge, when once again the tag klaxon went off and everybody was fighting. When Takahashi decided, you know what, Josh Alexander, I didn't appreciate the pile driver that happened earlier. He hit one with not a bigger one, but a pretty big one. And Carl Fletcher had done a jumping tombstone before this. He got the 1, 2, 3, and that meant that at Forbidden Door, it is going to be Takahashi versus Carl Fletcher, I think, for the TNT title. I will go out on a limb. If that's bad, I will chop off my own head. Obviously, I won't do it on camera because nobody wants to see that, but there is no way. It can't be brilliant, as was this match. I'm just going to give it an up. Sometimes I just want to switch off my brain and have the best time. Exhibit A. But they got a really weird promo with Swerve Strickland because he came out and said, I may not be cleared for Forbidden Door, but I'm going to fight anyway. When Okada joined him and said, that's right, you may as well give up because you do have a dodgy knee. And they kind of stared at each other a little bit as Okada called him a bitch. Now, I know this is part of the story. I don't know if it's real, because originally Will was injured and now he's in the most crazy match ever, and Swerve is going to have a, not a basic, but an exhibition match for a title with Okada, and now it's all changed. This is one where I do just need to sit back and not worry about it. Although now I think about it, the Hurt Syndicate weren't on this card either. Gonna hold fire on that one. I still think they will be involved at Forbidden Door with MJF. Although the spreadsheets and rumor mills tell me I'm wrong. Wait and see. This is when John Moxley said he's going to start recruiting people to help the Death Riders, and he walked into the Young Bucks locker room, so dun dun dun. When we had a main event for the Trios titles, I'm just going to throw it down in there. I know that Samoa Joe has been away filming Twisted Metal, but I kind of feel like we need to shine a bigger spotlight on these championship belts. They could be so cool, and the division kind of comes and goes like my hair. It's not true, I'm always bald. They're also taking on Rooster Risco and the Beast Mortis, so there was no way there was going to be a title change here. But it kind of sums up, compared to the rest of the match, it was just so much fun. They all punched each other so hard in the face. Samoa Joe is one of the best wrestlers of all time. Shibata was being beaten up and then at one point turned on his no-sell button, and he got the hot tag to Powerhouse Will Hobbs. And as I usually do when I see Hobbs run wild, I'm like, eventually, we can give this guy a bigger push. The spine buster he gave, I think, to the Beast Mortis. It was a work of art, put it in the loop. It was cool too, because towards the end of this is where he was playing defense as Samoa Joe caught Drillist to go in the choke, and he tapped out as well, so everybody was being choked out. But now, yes, look, I'm going to give it an up. It was a fine match. But somebody, some 3-person teams, needs to walk up to the Opps or Samoa Joe's operations and say, listen, we want to challenge you for those belts. You have those belts. The wrestling company would like to have those belts, and they can have a fight, and then you could stretch this out over a few weeks. That's the way you make titles mean something. But look, I'm still going to give it an up. I would say it didn't have the gravitas of some other matches on this show in order for it to be in the main event. It was hard-hitting, it was solid, I had a good time. Sometimes that's all that matters. We also got an ending as well because MJF made sure to beat up Hangman Page in the parking lot, which could be interesting because maybe we work an injury angle there, although we may be doing that with Swerve too. And ultimately, I hope he is okay when it comes to wrestlers and what's real and what's rot. Who knows anymore? But it also brought us to the end of Dynamite. I do apologize. This has been the most scatty-brained ups and downs ever, but I'll explain very soon. But I have to be somewhere in 5 minutes. I only got back here like 5 minutes ago. That timeline doesn't add up, but you know what I'm talking about. But I'm always going to get the ups and downs done, even if it kills me, which is a stupid thing to say. Dynamite is getting an up. Leave me a comment below. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Do whatever you want to do, as long as it's legal. See you soon.